Hey everyone, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Adam here. When we last left off, we had our infrastructure improvements done, so our mission Eve should be relatively safe, assuming I don't screw up maneuvers on the way there and stuff, but at least we have signals with remote tech for that the whole time. So, while we're waiting for our first maneuvers to come up, I figured it would be a good idea to do some more science here closer to home. We've been kind of ignoring Minmus while the preparations for Eve have been going on, and I figured it'd be good to do this. Now, this is my standard, what I call a Pegasus launcher. It's just for satellites and stuff. I do have a satellite here that I've used around the Mun and around Kerbin already, and this thing gathers quite a lot of science, actually, on places with biomes. I imagine it's not going to be as useful around other places, but I still am sending some out. It uses the orbital telescope here from the Orbital Science pack, and you can do orbital observations of planets, and depending on what biome you're over in lower orbits, it will give you different results, so you can actually get quite a lot. And I think Minmus has at least as many biomes as Kerbin, maybe more. So when I did this around the moon, I was getting tons and tons of science from it, so I'm thinking Minmus is going to be a good place to get a lot of science using this telescope. So let's close that for now, because that's just in the way. So it looks like we still have about a week until my maneuvers for the first of the Eve craft, so that's plenty of time to get this done. Get our ascent guidance going here. We do not need an orbit that high. Let's just go for 100. And we do want to launch into Minmus's plane here. Now, where are you, Minmus? There you are. So let's launch into the plane of Minmus, and let's engage our autopilot. Coming up on a morning launch this time then. What are we doing here? Looks like it. Looks like it indeed. So I'm going to be sending one of these to every planet because, it makes sense too. They get 100% of the science returned when you take a picture, which makes sense because it's a picture. Like, it kind of bugs me when you, in this game, the idea that you can't return 100% of the science from a thermometer or something. That seems kind of silly to me because it's just a number. Why would it get more science returning the actual instrument? But most of the mods seem a little more reasonably done. I'm sure the squad is thinking of balancing the amount of science you get because it is harder to return it than to not, but and it makes sense for a material sample or something, but not so much for something like this. So we're just coasting there for a minute while we get back under terminal velocity. And this thing has had zero issues getting into orbit. So this is one of my more reliable launch craft that I have. I use this thing quite a lot, so I don't anticipate any problems. This has launched pretty much every one of my satellites except for some of the heavier ones. And we'll keep it around. Although maybe I could upgrade the engine to something else at this point because I do have better engines. It's not exactly, the speediest rocket ever, but it does get the job done. It's not the size of the rocket. It's how you use it, I suppose. Now we're getting kind of high up here where I might want to. Oh, that antenna is kind of glitching through. I gotcha. We got an antenna glitching through the fairing there a little bit. I'm not going to deploy that antenna until the fairing separates because I'm a little bit worried about random explosions happening, because even though the fairing kind of physically doesn't exist, it still kind of does in a way with clipping and stuff, and sometimes if you decouple things, it gets crazy, so we'll just let that be until we get to a point where the fairing is separated. I want my Delta V info here too. Alright, got a separation coming up in 10 seconds here. Come on. Fingers crossed. Like I've said, I've launched a lot of stuff with this thing, but it probably won't work now that we're recording. So, let's go ahead and get our stuff deployed. There you go. Now, it has one of these map track devices on it so that I can see what biome I'm actually over. Because what I do is I basically just go into a polar orbit around, take pictures of the various biomes, and I kind of need to know what biome I'm in. So I use that to do that. I don't remember what engine this thing has on it, but I suppose we'll find that out when we get up. So even though our thrust to weight ratio is not that great right now, I think we're still in good shape because of the altitude we got out of that first stage there. I'm just trying to see if we can, you know, slow down the decline of our apoapsis. It might not matter. I have launched this thing, believe me. This thing got one of these things out to the mun. But, you know, things never go well when it's recording. But basically, that's the only scientific instrument it has on it. I'm not going to bother doing any visual observations right now because I already have done so for Kerbin. I think I might need one from high above Kerbin. I don't remember if I did that or not. So we'll try doing one from high above Kerbin when we're on our way out to the out to Minmus. I almost said the mun. That's not where we're going. Alright, so that is still declining the time to apoapsis, but it's slowing down. Still got like, you know, a couple hundred meters per second to go before we get up to orbital speed, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. We're almost up to a 1 thrust weight to weight ratio, which means that we'll be in better shape. It matters a lot less when you're in orbit anyway, because you don't have all that drag to deal with, and we start getting huge amounts of time to deal with too. So yeah, we're climbing the hill again here. We're good to go. Good to go. I knew you could do it, little rocket. I knew it. So we'll probably enter orbit with this thing. I don't remember if it has its own probe core on it or not. That's a good question. I haven't launched one of these in a while. I've been working on all the Minmus stuff, so I kind of have forgotten. I don't see a probe core down in there, so I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. If we have to leave this thing floating around, we have to leave it floating around. Although I do have a pretty decent amount of delta V remaining in the satellite stage, so maybe we'll just ditch the thing on a impact trajectory and then adjust our orbit from there. Because the satellite doesn't have to make a huge amount of adjustments in its orbit once it gets out there. Alright, so just coasting the rest of the way out of the atmosphere here. Getting our maneuver going. Slowly but surely. These probes, like I said, do not have good torque. I've had that problem with several of these, but this is a fairly light rocket, so it's not as big of a deal. Man, she does turn slow, though. So, I will meet you when we're actually plotting our Minmus trajectory at this point, because this is going to take another minute or two. Not much delta V to burn, though. Alright, so we have a Minmus Encounter here with a pretty high periapsis, but I don't really care. Why do we have more than one node? Let's get rid of that. That's stupid. There's something weird going on there. Go, little node. Whoa. Was that the mun? That must have been a mun encounter? Alright, that's better. Whatever. Execute. Let's go. I will see you at Minmus. Oh, and there goes the satellite. That little speck there. That's a satellite in orbit. That's very cool. Alright, so we are on our way out to Minmus, and of course it doesn't matter if we actually turn this thing towards Kerbin, because the game doesn't care about like where you're actually aiming stuff. I have no connection right now, so we have to wait to try to do this till we get back into range of something anyway. Well, we'll come into range of the comms stuff. Oh, there, we had range for a minute. Come back into range of the comms stuff out here in a minute anyway, when Minmus gets closer. Try. I think we should be back in range of their communication stuff before we actually enter the sphere of influence. Yeah, there we go. So, let's see what we can get for a picture of Kerbin. So, 10 science, not great, but I'll take it. Why not? And we'll close the shutter just to be professional, I guess. I do like a good shutter animation. Okay, so where does our encounter actually happen? Way out here. That's actually not a great encounter. Let's do a little maneuvering here. I wish I'd realized that a little bit earlier, but I was distracted by the no communication. So first things first, where is Minmus showing up here? Okay, and which way? That's making things worse. Okay, we lost our encounter if we do that. Let's just start again, because something got confusing there. And no encounter. Alright, so what is our node with Minmus at? What? That doesn't seem correct. Well, we'll just fix it when we get there, because kind of coming in close anyway. I don't feel like dealing with this sort of stuff at these... We're going how fast out here now? 140. We're gonna be going real slow by the time we get to the encounter, probably. It's actually on the back side of Minmus's orbit here too. Alrighty, sphere of influence. Now, let's go ahead and get into an orbit. And then we'll do our plane changing and whatnot at a later time. Now we can probably get an observation of Minmus here while we're way out. Let's do that. C40 Science, and then there's every biome is going to give us 40 science, so it ends up adding up to quite a lot. This is probably one of the better bangs for your bucks inside of the Kerbin system, in terms of just how easy it is to get a lot of science. I think it's like 10 over any of the biomes on Kerbin. It was like 30 on the Mun, and now it's 40 out at Minmus, so it's pretty sweet setup here. I had to go back to the default star field here, because the other one was just using so much memory. With all the mods I have, you know, there's the 3.9 gigabyte limit that you run into. My PC has 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you can't use more than 3.9 because it's a 32-bit application. So with all the mods I had to, you know, pull stuff out, and I keep deleting individual parts that I don't use as well. So we get almost like more than half a second of signal delay here. So this is where you really do want, if you're using remote tech, you really want to use Mech Jet. But it does come with its own little flight controller. But I haven't really used that because Mech Jet has much better instrumentation and it's a lot easier to understand. So I generally just use Mech Jet anyway. So what are you doing here? Remove all of the nodes because you're doing something silly here. We're in orbit. We can fix this from here. So what we need to do, first things first, while we're way out, let's change our inclination. I usually go for about 85 degrees, and I guess it doesn't really matter where I do this because we have a ton of delta V, but we'll do it properly. How long is that node away from us? You know what, I'm not going to do it properly. Just do it now, pretty much. Let's do it 30 seconds from now. How much of a difference in delta V is that? Hardly any. Just do it. Just do it. Now, I'm probably going to put this thing on a return trajectory to smack into Minmus here because I would like to not leave more space to breathe than I have to. Why are we having troubles here again? What are you doing, you silly Mech Jet? And let's check here. So right now our inclination is 178, so we're like flipping this thing quite a lot, but it doesn't matter how perfect it is. Good enough. 84 degrees will do, I'm sure. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to create a maneuver up here where we just crash into Minmus, and I'll do all the rest of the corrections after this using the main part of this. So let's execute that node. And hopefully this thing, I mean, according to this, it's got quite a lot of delta V remaining, so should be good. We've got 2,000 delta V. Should be good to do everything I want to do. Oh, that's a nice shot there. You got Kerbin, the Mun, and Minmus. Man, you barely move this far out from Minmus. It's ridiculous. Oh, slow going here. I'm going to use up a lot of my time before my maneuver just doing these things. Alright. Coming up. Ready to remove my maneuver because it likes to screw things up. Let's do that. Yeah, it screwed up my inclination a little bit, so we'll have to fix that. And I'm going to go ahead and quick save just because I always do before I disconnect things, because sometimes things like to get a little wonky. But let's go ahead and face program. Oh yeah, I have like a half second of signal delay still. That's why that's taking forever. Well, let's separate. And where are you, little engine? Activate. Alright, so I'm going to maneuver into probably like a 250 kilometer orbit here, figure this out, and let's see here. 223, that's probably good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's go ahead and execute that node now. Goodbye, little stage. You were nice to have along. Actually, I need to get into a much lower orbit than that, don't I? Because I need to get the low observations over the various biomes. Well, what we'll do is we'll tuck this side of the orbit in, and then we'll get down to our periapsis and then pull in the apoapsis to a new periapsis, I think is what we'll do. Flip the orbit, basically. Are we doing something here? There we go. See, the satellite does a much better job of staying on track here with the maneuvers. Much more accurate. Less stuff to move around. So, how far are we from our... We're almost a whole day from our periapsis. So, I believe what I will do now is set up a maneuver at periapsis to pull that into, like... I don't even know how low I have to get over Minmus. Pretty low, I think. Like 30,000 maybe. That's still... I'll try... That's under 30,000. Execute. So yeah, this is going to eat up almost all of my time before my maneuver, so we'll probably do the maneuvers in this video too. Oh, that's crazy looking. And we'll probably get all my maneuvering done then too. Oh, there goes the satellite. Minmus doesn't have so much crap on it yet. I've done a orbit of Minmus as a manned thing. I haven't sent any probes to it yet, so We're definitely going to send a manned mission out, probably after I do the maneuvers for the Eve stuff. Let's get our circularized thingy up. And we'll do that at our next periapsis. And let's see if we got anything new here. Nah, it's still high over Minmus. But now we're getting some speed up a little bit, so at least it's less time consuming to do stuff around Minmus. Create and execute. See, that's only a 90-minute to periapsis, so it's like a 3-hour orbit now or something. Yeah, 3 hours and 22 minutes. More reasonable. There's this crap flying around Minmus everywhere. I don't even know what that is. Satellite of some sort. Alright, so when we slow down, we'll see if we're actually low enough that it counts biomes and whatnot. Come on, one time warp, please. There we go. So what do we got? We got observations from space. Okay, so this is above the biomes now. Send it. So now it's pretty much just a matter of orbiting a bunch. We can look at our fancy-dancy map here. And we need the big map, so this is a little clearer what the heck is going on. And go to bio mode. So now we can see all of our biomes, we can see what we're over. So what I do is pretty much just orbit around and do observations. So it says we're over lowlands now. I don't know, we were just over slopes, so we might get a little bit more right now. I guess we're not quite over it, but we will be soon. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the next little bit, gathering lots and lots and lots of science, and I will be back when it's time to take care of some maneuvers with those Eve ships. Alright, so I believe this little satellite has gathered pretty much all the science that it's going to be gathering from Minmus for now. Not really any further use for it, but I'm not going to deorbit it because it can always act as another relay, which is useful. So we have almost 5 days until our first maneuver, so I think what I'm going to do now is save the game before I try switching craft, because it likes to go and screw up. So let's jump to the ship and restore this maneuver node. And I'm going to fine-tune this thing down to a point where I'm happy with the encounter. And good, nothing blew up this time. I fixed that explodey issue. I should probably have mentioned that. I figured out what it was caused by. It was caused by issues with remote tech. There was a community patch that fixed it. I wonder if there's any more science to be had here. That signal delay is getting to be pretty ridiculous. That's 14 seconds almost now. Holy moly. Wow. I'm gonna have to... Yeah, there's not even anything there. I'm probably going to have to do something to disable that because it's probably going to be an issue. Why are my solar panels reaching? Did this thing... Oh, waste heat. Its waste heat is under control now, so let's go ahead and extend one of those panels. That is worrying. Come on. There she goes. And maybe I'll put out one of the smaller panels too, just to make sure that our electric charge stays under control here. Those little radiators I have are not big enough to deal with this, I guess. That's problematic. Well, we have that charged up. Maybe we don't need the ginormous solar panel. Let's go ahead and retract that. Try to put out a couple of these smaller ones and hope that they can do what we need them to do. Should have put bigger radiators on those gigantor solar panels. Just they cause some troubles, don't they? Definitely need to make sure our electric charge stays under control here. I think these panels should have enough to power everything, I hope. do they? Yes, the charge is going up, and they should not generate nearly as much heat. Okay. As long as we leave a panel out and the battery stays charged up, it's not too much of an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments here, and I will be back. Alright, so I've made some adjustments and we got our encounter back. So I believe I'm going to actually execute this node, which means we're going to need our good friend Mech Jet, but I want to check out our Delta V. Why is it telling me I have no Delta V available? This engine is active, right? Yes, it is. I don't know why it's doing that. We're going to assume that everything's okay. Let's go ahead and just execute this node. Hopefully Mech Jet can handle this. Fingers crossed. Alright, so we're starting our burn. It's going to be a fairly long one. Glad Mech Jet is around to handle it, because I don't feel like doing a 5-minute burn. So anyway, hopefully this will get us relatively close, and then we'll worry about doing our final tweaking once we get a little bit closer. Alright, so we've completed our burn here as well. We have our new updated sphere of influence changes. I'm a little bit concerned looking at how much Delta V this has left. It's not a huge amount. Aero braking is definitely going to be necessary for this ship at least. So we'll have to give that some thought. I'm going to have to look up optimal aero braking altitudes and whatnot. There is a calculator for that, so I'll look into that because that's going to be kind of important to get that right. So that pretty much wraps things up for today. In our next episode, we are going to launch a manned mission to the Mun, I believe, because we have about 2 weeks until we really need to do anything else in the game, and that's just about enough time to launch something, or not to the Mun, to Minmus. Gonna launch a manned mission out to Minmus and get some more science that way. So anyway guys, thanks for watching. I will catch you next time.